D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, and David Janes here with you. We hope you had a wonderful weekend. We have a fun show planned for y'all today. Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter will join us at 3:40. We will dive into NFL Wildcard Weekend, which provided us with plenty of drama. The Predators split their back-to-back set at home over the weekend. But first, we begin on the Titans head coaching search. The Titans announced Saturday that they have conducted interviews with 7 candidates: Lou Anarumo, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, Vance Joseph, Kevin Stefanski, Mike McCoy, and Jason Garrett. And then there is John Harbaugh. It was just announced, maybe within the past hour or so, that John Harbaugh has interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. That is his first official interview. But there were multiple reports over the weekend that connected the Titans to John Harbaugh in some manner. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated posted on Saturday, quote, "On John Harbaugh, no interviews this weekend. He'll start this coming week. Sources say 6 teams reached out right away. Miami made it 7 last night. He won't interview with them all, so I'd see the realistic landing spots as of now as the Giants, Dolphins, Titans, and Falcons." Diana Rossini of The Athletic also on Saturday posted this, quote, "John Harbaugh is spending today and the next few days watching film specifically on quarterbacks Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. He's also been in contact with team decision makers while continuing to communicate with potential members of his own coaching staff." Now, there has been additional reporting that the Giants and Falcons, in some order, appear to be the front runners for Harbaugh's services, with the Titans maybe third on his list. So although the Titans may not be in the lead, they could be in the mix. So here's how we're going to start. Derek, what would it say about the Titans if John Harbaugh, who is being selective in this process, grants the Titans an interview? Would it be a stamp of approval of sorts?
Considering who the coach is, yeah, because there are several jobs out there outside of, the Titans, Atlanta, and the Giants. And he's choosing after, doing his own homework, because that's what he's doing, and that's what he has been doing. At least that's what's coming out. He's doing his homework on these teams to see even if he wants to go and visit them. And if it stays true, then if he does come here for an interview with the Titans, I think it is something that would be a good thing. I don't think he would go somewhere where he didn't feel he could win. He didn't feel that the quarterback situation wasn't stable, or there was a lot of potential. Now, whether he chooses the Titans or not, he's going to go somewhere where he believes there's a quarterback, period. So whether it's here or the Giants, just because he chooses here doesn't mean he didn't think that Jackson Dart wasn't the guy, or vice versa. But I think he's at a point in his career where, you want to go in and either choose your own quarterback or have a quarterback already that you believe either is established or has the potential to be an elite quarterback or a franchise quarterback. So if he comes in here if he decides that, this is one of the destinations, then I think that's a good thing.
Willie, same question. What would it say about the Titans if John Harbaugh decides to grant them an interview? Because this is what it feels like, right? Harbaugh has his choice. Everybody wants a piece of John Harbaugh. But if John Harbaugh, in whittling down the list, decides that the Titans deserve an interview, what would that say about them?
Not a whole lot. I do think if he grants him an interview, he must at least think that Cam Ward has a chance to be very good, which I think that would resonate with me. My question would be, what's real interest, right? Is an interview interest? He is so sought after. I want to know if the Titans are in the ballpark financially and really want this to happen. And B, is there real interest on Harbaugh, or is he just kind of playing the field and saying, okay, let's get my 3. But if the Titans are third on the list of 3 or 4, then is that really where you want to be?
There was a report that came out last week out of Cleveland about what John Harbaugh's job requirements would be if he is to take your job. And they reportedly include, and by the way, this report has been refuted by other reporters, $20 million per year, which would make him, if I'm not mistaken, tied with Andy Reid for the highest paid coach in the NFL. $10 million staff budget, total authority over the roster, and he would like to select his own GM. That was out of Cleveland. Again, there have been other reporters who have refuted that report, saying that John Harbaugh does not have that list of demands. But again, the initial report, $20 million per year, $10 million staff budget, total authority over the roster, would like to select his own GM. You find this humorous, Derek?
Yeah, I do. How quickly things are put out there. Like, is it to sort of steer him away from, or steer other teams away from him, hoping that, you will be the team that he ultimately chooses because the other don't think you are, serious about really coming to them because of these demands? Listen, if I'm going to Cleveland, hell yeah, I want all of that. If I was going to Cleveland
specifically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cleveland specifically, I would want all of that. Why? Because they've been a bad organization for a very, very, very long time. So if I'm taking a Cleveland job, you damn right I want to pick my GM and I want to pick my coach staff, because whoever was doing it before didn't get it right. So why would I step into a situation where they hadn't gotten it right over 20 years and I'm supposed to, perpetuate this, coming here, spending 3 years and then getting fired because I have no control? No. I'm going to Cleveland, you give me control. Now, if you're talking about some other places, then okay. I look at this from this standpoint. Look at the situation, at least with the Titans. He would only, if indeed that happened, he would only ask that of someone or an organization that he really wasn't going to, if indeed that was the case.
As his way to say, yeah, I'm not really interested, but I can be interested if you meet my demands.
Exactly. But I think at organizations,
or you set the demand so high that somebody would realistically give you that power.
So it's like
and that gets them to say, well, let's go in another direction.
Exactly. So if you're looking at the Titans, he's probably looking at their structure, and this is why it was crucial. Even though it's probably was set in motion already, but it was critical for them to put it out in print so everybody can see it. So, they can have a press conference, because they want to make sure that the new head coach that's coming in, he understands the dynamics. So if Harbaugh looks at this, he may be looking at it in a favorable light now that they have solidified positions, so to speak.
And to Willie's point, which we also discussed last week, if you want John Harbaugh, you're going to have to pay up. Brian Callahan, reportedly made roughly $3 million per year. You're not getting John Harbaugh for $3 million per year. You are going to have to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL, which he already was with the Baltimore Ravens. I believe he was making $17 million per year. But there's been an interesting debate on social media about the total control of the roster element of this, especially with the Titans going out of their way a week and a half ago to say, we are making it clear that Mike Borgonzi is in charge of the roster. He's in charge of the coaching search. And there's been this debate about, well, John Harbaugh, he may not have had control over the roster in Baltimore, but he's put in the work. 18 years in Baltimore. If a team really wants him, they are going to have to give up control of the roster. And Willie, it's led to an interesting debate among Titans fans on social media.
All right, so let me throw a question back at you guys. Let's say Harbaugh says, I'll take it if you give me control of the roster, etc. What does Mike Borgonzi say? Like, what does Amy Adams say?
Hey man, that's a tough one, because you've already
he's got a lot of leverage, right?
But you've already come out and said that the GM is responsible for the players. But now you backtrack and say, well,
now that we have Harbaugh,
now that still to me, that shows no stability. If you're going to give me responsibility and then take it back because somebody else comes in, you can fire me next year because you just don't like, maybe you like what he's doing more. You may want to replace me now. So to me, that shows a lack of loyalty. instability, at least on my part.
And one thing that John Harbaugh knows, as you also know, Derek, having been a member of the Baltimore Ravens organization, is that organization is synonymous with stability, right?
Exactly.
So, look, John Harbaugh with the teams at his disposal, I guess you could say. I don't pretend to know everything about the Arizona Cardinals. Honestly, I don't know how many people actually know anything about the Arizona Cardinals. I only pay attention to the Cardinals when I have to. Sorry, Cardinals fans, if you're listening. But that is an element that intrigues me a little bit. How much? I mean, he could ask for roster control. John Harbaugh is well within his rights to say, you know what? I've put in my work. I want full roster control, even if he's never really had roster control. I assume he did not have any roster control in Baltimore.
I'm sure he had a say to a certain extent, but
there's a difference between the coach being able to say to the GM, you know, I like this player over this player versus this is my team and I'm picking all of the players.
No, that wasn't like that.
And I don't think it would be a great look on the Titans, Willie, if a week and a half after putting out a statement from the owner saying, Mike Borgonzi, you're in charge. Never mind. John Harbaugh's in charge now.
Are we a little surprised if it's true, this report or whatever, that Harbaugh wants that much control? Is that the desire of him? I mean, he just got fired a couple of weeks ago.
I couldn't see him. Listen, again, I couldn't see him wanting that much control because he's, from my knowledge, didn't have that in Baltimore. So I couldn't all of a sudden see him, unless you're going to Cleveland. That's a different story. But outside of Cleveland, I couldn't see him wanting that as like, that's a part of, if I come, that will be the reason or a part of why I come. But then again, you never know. Maybe he was just tired of that structure in Baltimore and wanted a little bit more say.
Because I think he has the leverage. He has the leverage to ask for a lot of control. And if that's what you want to do, you can probably wield that leverage and get a job. But is it the best setup to do it that way? I can certainly see from afar him saying, hey, look, I've watched the Titans pretty closely over the years. I've seen a lot of people get fired. The Adams family has a certain reputation. Yeah, I know there's a new stadium, et cetera, but I would think he would want to protect himself, right? Just from afar with the wild card factor.
Adam Schefter reports about 20, 30 minutes ago, while the Falcons announced an official interview with former Ravens head coach John Harbaugh, he already has been conducting preliminary and extensive phone calls with the Giants, Titans, Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals per sources. He is trying to determine who to meet with later this week and into next week before making a decision. He is fully expected to coach in 2026.
So the theory, which I think is a good one, of sitting out a year, which I think is probably good for. I think a lot of coaches would probably say it was good to sit out a year.
Yeah,
somewhere in there, but apparently he's not doing that.
I guess once you're in it, you're in it.
I did think of you, Derek, this weekend when I saw the viral photo of. Well, of course, I'm always thinking of you, Derek, but I especially thought of you when I saw the viral photo of Mike McDaniel on the carousel at Disney World in the Gucci fit. First of all, a little on the nose with the coach on the actual carousel, but
yes, sir.
He was dressed to the nines for a trip to Disney World.
I don't want any part of that young man.
He's interviewing with the Titans.
Coach. At least not as a head coach. I just don't. Listen, they had their run, and when things wasn't going well, it imploded. That tells you the locker room wasn't good in the first place. That's what that tells you. You just don't all of a sudden implode. Things go on that you just sort of let kind of slide because you're winning or it's tolerable. But then when you start losing, it's kind of like during 2 days. You know, the first couple of days, I'll let you lean on me a little bit. But then after that 5th, 6th day, when it's hot out there, man, get off of me. I ain't letting that happen no more. It's the same here.
Let's go to Bob on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Bob, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Yeah, talking about Harbaugh. I'm going to say it before anybody else says it just for fun. If we somehow get Harbaugh, how can we get Henry back too?
Thank you for the call, Bob.
Henry just re-upped this deal for another 2 years, but then again, you never know. They may release him, but that would be foolish of them.
Yes. I am wondering who the Ravens are going to hire. I don't have the list of interviewees in front of me. I believe Cliff Kingsbury interviewed for the job.
You know, I'm thinking about this because John did a great job, and I said this when we first started talking about sort of like the pros and the cons. He did a masterful job at adapting to the quarterbacks that he had. Whether it was Joe Flacco was mobile, but Joe Flacco was big arm, throw it down the field, sort of like more of a Ben Roethlisberger type of quarterback. So he was able to do it and win a championship that way. Defense played great. Joe had a historic run in the playoffs. But then in 18, they had to switch to Lamar Jackson, a guy that was just coming into his own, a guy that was a dual threat quarterback. And you were able to win with that type of quarterback. Now, listen, he's one of the best passers in the NFL right now, meaning Lamar Jackson. So he was able to mature in the offense that you sort of surrounded him with, or you catered the offense to your talent. I'm wondering what type of quarterback is he looking for now?
It's great. It's a really good question.
You know,
I mean, he has to, you could do like your Weird Science movie where you make the perfect quarterback in the lab or something, but that's not reality, right? That's why I think it was an interesting story to me that he was watching the film on the quarterbacks to try to get a better feel of, okay, if I went here, what am I getting? So you have to work. I don't think there'll ever be somebody quite like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And there's probably, more that are close to what Joe Flacco is, at least prototypically. But I wonder what he thinks of the various quarterbacks out there, like Dart versus Ward or something like that.
Because Ward is not Jackson.
Not even close.
Yeah. Ward would be more so like Joe Flacco.
I think he's closer to Flacco than
he is
Jackson.
Jackson. Yes, he's closer to Flacco. But then you look at Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has the body of Joe Flacco, but he can run, but he's reckless in running. So do you want that type of quarterback? So like you said, it's not going to be perfect, but which one do you want to lean more toward? Do you want the more athletic, big, physical quarterback, or do you want the guy that, he can run, he's developing into a really good passer, but he doesn't fit the mold that you just came from, like running, options with the quarterback and setting up plays to run with the quarterback. Cam's not that type of guy.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. It appears that the Titans could be on John Harbaugh's short list. What would it say about the Titans if John Harbaugh grants them an interview? Because look, it's going to be him granting them an interview, not the other way around. 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and continue the conversation. Coming up next, we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
The question is, what does he want? What does he want?
Just knowing what I know about John,
Sure.
I'd say alignment. I think that's really important to him.
Meaning what? What does that mean?
Meaning, like what he experienced in Baltimore and what Ozzie Newsome set up for him and what he had in an owner in Steve Bisciotti. And we've both been around Steve, right? Like, I think Steve's a pretty good guy to work for. Like, he has standards. You know, he has an idea of the way he wants his program to be. But he also is going to let everybody do their jobs, you know, like he's not an overlord at all, you know, like, so like, I think, you know, the like having some level of certainty in ownership is going to be important to him.
I said, baby, you should know.
That was Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated on the Rich Eisen show. Breer says John Harbaugh wants alignment. A word that has not been associated with the Tennessee Titans for quite some time. So that is something that Harbaugh is going to have to weigh as he decides which teams to interview. He has interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. More interviews to come, but multiple reports say that Harbaugh is going to be selective. On our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, Ben in Cumberland City says, I feel like everyone's giving Harbaugh way too much credit. It's been Baltimore and Pittsburgh for years in that division. Look at Harbaugh's early to mid-tenure Bengals. Weren't a threat. They went 30 years without a playoff win. Cleveland's been Cleveland. There's been a lot of mediocre years, barely winning the North. Consistency doesn't always mean greatness. I'm not saying he's mid, but I don't get the hype that all these teams are just going to give everything for him to come.
I disagree. I think somebody is going to give him the whole ball, whatever he wants.
The whole enchilada.
Yeah, I think he'll be the highest paid coach. And I would say that he will be very satisfied with his, you know, with the Albert Breer part of it, the alignment, and whatever say he's got. It's going to be something he's going to get everything he wants.
Yeah, it just depends on what he wants and which team he wants it from. Like I said, it may be different in Cleveland than it is, you know, somewhere else, or it may be different in what he would want here in Nashville than anything else. But I think the key word was alignment. That alignment doesn't necessarily mean that he has to have control. He just needs to know the chain of command, you know, and that everybody's on the same page, and that when he walks in here, that he has a vision, and hopefully that vision matches what the Titans are thinking, and allow him to push forward that vision, and that all of y'all are on the same page. That's what made Baltimore or Pittsburgh so good for so long. And even the Giants at one point, obviously New England and Kansas City, but when everyone is together and everyone follows the vision, because ultimately it's the coach's vision, and it's up to the GM and whoever else to make sure he has the right players for that vision, and y'all are in line with that vision. So if he wants alignment, then, you know, we understand why the Titans did what they did, because they want to make sure that when a guy comes in here, he understands the alignment and the chain of command.
Jonathan Jones of CBS reported, I think this was yesterday, quote, 2 sources on interested teams said their belief is Harbaugh's top choices among the vacant jobs are the New York Giants and Atlanta Falcons in some order. Those sources added the Tennessee Titans are in 3rd place, while a third different source said there is real and mutual interest between Harbaugh and the Cleveland Browns. Reports of Harbaugh's demands are inaccurate. According to a source with knowledge, Harbaugh will command a high salary based simply off his resume, and some level of roster say is inherent in attracting a coach of that caliber, but a demand of $20 million in salary and full roster control are not required to land Harbaugh's services. So he has interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm thinking of the differences between Atlanta and Tennessee. And the Falcons do have some attractive young pieces. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, among others. The quarterback question, though, Michael Penix is coming back from an ACL tear, if I'm not mistaken. And from what I saw of him, at least the numbers suggest that he wasn't very good. So I'm wondering what Harbaugh could see in Atlanta that maybe he doesn't see in Tennessee.
I think one thing we have to be aware of that he probably is looking at. We talk about the alignment, but when you think of the Atlanta Falcons, what do you think of? Arthur Blank.
And the new president of football, Matt Ryan. The president of football.
But Arthur Blank,
the assistant to the traveling secretary.
Now that was funny. Like, what does that person do? But Arthur Blank is thought highly throughout the circles. And I'm not saying that, people don't think highly of Amy. I'm sure they do. But the way this franchise to the outside world has functioned for at least 10, 15 years, it was dysfunctional in their minds. You look at Atlanta and you see stability with Arthur Blank and someone that you may like in those circles that people truly respect. So you look at that as well. How much is the owner really going to meddle in what we're doing?
It's a good question. I thought of it this way, Adam, if you could choose better quarterback, but less stable ownership, or you like the quarterback, or questions at quarterback, but the stability at ownership that you're looking for, what's the better long-term play? Especially for specifically Harbaugh, like if you're a young first-time coach, you probably would take the quarterback. But if you're Harbaugh and you're like, they're not going to fire me after a bad year or two, this team's already down, I'm going to have a few years here, would you take the stability and figure I'll find the quarterback?
I think that's a good point. I think the veteran coaches probably feel that way versus the first-year head coaches. One texter says, don't forget, the Falcons play in the NFC South, which is a dumpster fire. That's a +2. Indeed. The NFC South.
It is now. These things run in cycles,
yes.
But traditionally, that has not been a strong division.
They are cyclical.
Yeah, yes. I like it.
So,
like when they had Brady in there and Breeze was still going,
yes,
right? In the Bucks, that wasn't a soft division at that point.
No, not at all. Let's take a quick look at the candidates who have indeed interviewed for the job. 7 of them. Lou Anarumo, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, Vance Joseph, Kevin Stefanski, Mike McCoy. Good for Mike McCoy to get an interview. And Jason Garrett. And I heard Jason Garrett, I don't know if it was before the game, halftime, I don't know. But on the NBC Sunday Night Football broadcast, he's a part of that. And he was asked about his interview with the Tennessee Titans. And he said all of the things that you would expect someone to say who interviewed for a job with the Titans. They've got the nice young quarterback and Cam Ward and a game wrecker and Jeffrey Simmons and a lot of cap space. And they play in Nashville and they've got a new stadium. Jason Garrett said all of those things. I could have played it for you, but I basically summarized it for you. But any of those candidates intrigue you at all now that they have been confirmed as interviews? The silence is deafening.
Yeah, I'm not hung up on Harbaugh. I'm not saying go for Harbaugh, put all your eggs in that basket. I would go down and take the swing. I would be measured, and I would want to measure his interest. Do you really want this job? If you want it, we want you. If you're just kind of throwing us in there with 3 or 4 other teams, I got to make sure I keep my options open here. So for me to tell you who the best candidates are here, I'm still curious about Saleh, who they got to win yesterday. So he's going to wait it out if you're going to get into him, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to. I mean, listen, all these coaches have their warts, some more warts than the others. Some, the warts are old and you just don't want to deal with it. They've sort of past their, prime in a sense. Even Harbaugh, I gave his cons. So it depends on one. In Harbaugh's case, does he see this as being a good fit for him? And I think for the Titans, if indeed that's the case, are they willing to pay the money it's going to take? We're not even talking about, possible structure and what he may want as far as his ability to have more of a say in the players. But the first, are you willing to pay him that much?
I would hope that if they're at this point, the answer is yes.
Yeah,
otherwise,
what
are you doing? You're trying
you
to
would
fool
think
people
it's
into thinking, like, oh, you really want this?
But
so you just want to be able to say, we tried for Harbaugh, and he should, like, if you're not willing to get into that game, it's like the car salesman, Dr. Locke. Why would I show somebody a really nice sports car if I know their price range isn't in that range?
Because it's just like, you don't know if their price, they're in that price range.
But eventually you're going to have to know.
Yeah, but I'm saying you get them in, and you hope that you can talk long enough and well enough and convincing enough that whatever that number is, it started to window down just a tad bit. That's all you hope for, because you're selling you're selling your organization. And in selling your organization, that means the coaches. And I know Borgonzi said we got good people. I understand that you do, but those players, that roster, you got to sell him that roster. That's what you got to sell him on. And does he believe that roster is good enough to win in the next 2 to 3 years? Well, at least 2 before they get into that next stadium. If he believes they are, then you are closer to him picking that job than not.
One texter says, Willie, if you have a great quarterback, no one cares about the owner, because generally with a great quarterback, you're winning.
That's fair. But do you know that the quarterback's right? I don't think he would inherit a quarterback who was already great. It's a quarterback you think is going to be great is probably the better way for me to phrase it. I think if you knew it was a great quarterback, it would be hard to
pass it up.
But if you were ranking those 3 quarterbacks, because Diana Rossini's report, Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, John Harbaugh was reviewing
and then throw Penix
into the equation, I would put Penix 3rd out of 3, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because
of the injuries, and he's older.
And we've seen a lot of Penix. We've seen more of Penix than we have Jackson Dart, at least. How many games has Penix played? Because I don't think he played a full season, did he?
No, he didn't start.
Michael Penix started 9 games this past season for the Falcons. He started 3 games the previous
season. So he
season.
hasn't even played more games than Cam Ward.
12 career starts, 14 career appearances.
And he probably hasn't. No, he has, because I think Jackson Dart missed some games because of injury.
And Michael Penix, by the way, will be 26 when next season begins.
So he's a little older. He hasn't been super effective. And I think we would say that Penix has had a better supporting cast than either Ward or Dart this past year.
Yeah, I would say that.
Especially when you take Malik Neighbors away from Dart. Dart played a lot of games without the best wide receiver that they have.
Quickly, let's go to Adam in Portland. Adam, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Adam, let me ask you, though, like, just to play devil's advocate, and D-Mace, don't get offended.
No, go ahead.
Why do I have to love John Harbaugh? Why do I have to love Nagy? Like, we couldn't score, but neither could Kansas City. And Baltimore had a lot of weapons, dude, and they couldn't score either. So, like, why is it all of a sudden he's the hype train, man? Like, I'm seeing the same problems in those cities that we had, except I know they could win when they got a lot of talent. It's the same thing with Kansas City, but when you don't have it, you struggle, and we don't have a lot of talent here. So why do I have to be sold on these dudes when they have not done more with less?
Thank you, Adam. Quickly, Derek, a response?
No, he doesn't have to be, sold on Harbaugh. I'm not offended by it at all. But when I look at the resume, when I look at, the production and the development of the players, he does check the boxes on a lot of things. I was a part of the culture that he was a part of building. So I know that it works. So yeah, there is a bias on my end, but listen, I'm upfront and straight about everybody we talk about. If I didn't think he was a good coach, I wouldn't be screaming for him to come here. I wouldn't.
615-737-1025. Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us coming up next. We'll get the latest on the Titans coaching search from TD. That's coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, Derek Mason here. If you've been in an motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your motorcycle accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. But Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear means to you, helping get it repaired or replaced. Call 1-800-LAW Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. And don't forget, go to predsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predators Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indian. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome our friend Teron Davenport, who is fueled by Parman Energy. You can visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. So, Teron, the Titans have announced that they have officially interviewed 7 candidates, more to come. But which of the 7 candidates who have interviewed with the Titans intrigues you the most, and why?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. The one that intrigues me the most is Jason Garrett. And when I say intrigue, I'm not saying he's the best option. It's just intriguing to me. And I talked about this last week, given his ties that he has to Norv Turner to Don Coryell via Norv Turner. And I think when you look at that vertical passing scheme and you mix that with a run-heavy play action offense, I think that's ideal for Cam Ward. We saw that in the last 4 or 5 games. So to me, that's the most intriguing. As far as the best option, that's probably a different conversation, but I'm curious how that matchup could work. And then you have the whole mystery of him having not been in the league for a little bit. I still think coaching is like riding a bike. You're not going to forget how to do it. And it would be interesting to see that one.
So would you consider Garrett to be a legitimate candidate? I know that he received an interview. Okay. So okay. Just wondering, because I think like a lot of people, when we saw that last week, we were all like, huh? Jason Garrett? Because it's been a minute, as you said, since he's been a head coach. I know he had some time as the Giants offensive coordinator after his stint with the Cowboys. Mike McDaniel is reportedly scheduled to interview with the Titans this week. He orchestrated one hell of an offense early in his Dolphins tenure, but I wonder about his ability to command a locker room, and that appears to be important to Mike Borgonzi. What are the pros and cons of McDaniel as Titans head coach?
Well, you said it right there. I do wonder about his ability to command the locker room, like that quirky type of approach and just personality. I don't know that will connect with. Like, imagine him trying to tell Jeffrey Simmons what to do. Like, I don't know that would really work out well. But hey, look, I put nothing past anyone. I think they should be able to find a common ground and a way to make it work. But he's just not one of the first candidates I would suggest from that perspective that you just mentioned. But you talk about the play calling and that side of things. Yeah, it's definitely tremendous what he was able to do. But you also got to remember, like, he assembled a track team. You know what I mean? They had Tyreek Hill. They had, I almost said Jerry Jeudy. They had Jalen Waddle. You got Devin A. Shane, who was stupid fast. Like, they had a bunch of guys, a lot of speed at the various positions. The Titans obviously don't have that. So how would he be able to make it work with those guys would be interesting. But, I mean, that's why he's one of the candidates. They would trust him to be able to do it.
Now, TD, you mentioned Jason Garrett and his lineage, so to speak, and how some of that can possibly fit into what Cam does underneath center, play action, stuff like that. How do you think when you start to look at these other coaches, whether it's Stefanski, John Harbaugh, and we talked about Harbaugh extensively, how he was able to change, based upon his two quarterbacks that they had was totally diametrically opposed to one another in style of play. But what do you think these coaches, or in particular Harbaugh, is looking for in a quarterback? Because it could be something totally different than what Cam is.
Yeah, I think what these coaches are looking for is a guy with a lot of promise. I would say that. But also I think they want a guy that could be an extension of them, right? A guy that could lead the room, a guy that will be balanced, a guy that is Cam Ward. You know what I mean? So I think, Cam alone makes the Titans' job very intriguing to me if I was a candidate. So you do have that.
Now, let's switch over to, the draft, obviously, because them picking a coach, then the draft comes. What do you, in regards to the position, do you think they first go to wide receiver, or do you think they go elsewhere? Because if you're bringing in a new coach and it's about the quarterback, then wouldn't you want to get more weapons for that quarterback?
I think you would want to get more weapons, but you also got to look at the board horizontally. And when I say that, I say you got to look at, okay, how is at 4, they may get their pick at the best pass rusher or best receiver. And then you look at, okay, where does Carnell Tate rank in conjunction with Arvell Reese, right? Or where does David Bailey rank in comparison to Jordan Tyson? I think those are the things you look at. But you also got to look at the history and the way certain positions are made up. And if you look at the pass rush situation, typically, your best pass rushers are first-round draft picks. Now, I mean, you could say that about almost every other position, but I think when you look at the pass rushers, outside of Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, there aren't a lot of guys that you get outside of the first round that are tremendously impactful. Yeah, you could get an Alex Highsmith or something like that, but you look, for the most part, all of the top pass rushers, those guys are first-round picks. And when you're talking about a top 4 pick, a top 5 pick, I think you need a guy that can have an instant impact. And to me, one of the biggest ways to immediately change things is to get a game-changing pass rusher. But then you compare that to a receiver. Look, you're an example, right? You weren't a first-round pick, but you're a Hall of Famer in my mind. You know what I mean? Deservingly Hall of Famer. So it's like, well, there are options, and you look across the league, there are plenty of receivers and weapons that you could get outside of the first round. So to me, that positional value, I think there's a little bit of a tax that gets added to a pass rusher, kind of like how it's added to a quarterback.
Speaking of that tax, Teron, what is your feel for the board right now, knowing that there's still a lot of time for this to change? But I was thinking about this while we were watching Mendoza for Indiana. He had a great game. The team dominated. He didn't have to be great, but he looked razor sharp. He made some really nice throws. Assuming he's moving up the board quick, could you see multiple quarterbacks getting to the top of the draft where that would only increase the Titans' options at number 4, knowing they're not going to pick a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, look, Mendoza, he's probably going to be the first player taken. He's the best quarterback in the draft. So, and we just talked about the tax there. I'm curious, Dante Moore, if he comes out, even though he had a tremendously bad pick six on the first throw of the game, you see the corner outside leverage. You know he's running an outbreaking route. How in the world are you going to throw that behind him? I don't know, but whatever. You want him to come out. You want him to be a guy because I think he will push your Arvell Reeses. And don't forget about Texas Tech's David Bailey. You know, he'll push some of those guys, and obviously Reuben Bain. He'll push some of those guys down to you, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, et cetera. So you want that to happen. I could see if more comes out, there being 2 quarterbacks getting selected, before the Titans are up to pick.
Now, I asked you this last week, and you just reiterated it with Derek. Your belief of what the best fit is for Cam Ward, the play action, the strong running game to complement his skill set. Do you have a sense, based on who you've talked to, that is the ideal path for Mike Borgonzi, what he's looking for in the next coach? Somebody that matches that.
Yes, that is the path. I think they saw how this team, even though they were bad, right, they created an identity. And it was interesting talking to Peter Skoronski, after that Jaguars game. He was like, I think we may have an identity here, and that's running the football and then working play action off of it. And ideally, you want to make things as quarterback friendly as possible. And Cam Ward has said it multiple times. Even Mike McCoy said it. They want to have play action. They like the way that helps the quarterback. It opens things up. And I think we've seen this movie before, right? And you'll probably see a little bit of it tonight with Arthur Smith orchestrating the Steelers offense. When Arthur Smith was here, they were running the football, play action, and Ryan Tannehill was playing as well as any quarterback in the league, literally. And so that was all obviously because of his ability, but also the scheme and the way things were set up. It was opening things up for him tremendously, and that's what they want to do for Ward.
If that's the case, I'm curious about what they want to do at tailback. We know Tony Pollard is steady, solid, but if you could imagine a younger, better, more dynamic tailback, that would help Cam Ward tenfold. So what do you think's out there at tailback?
Yeah, I don't think you know that you need a younger, more dynamic tailback when you have that combo of Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears. But from a cost perspective, you have to ask yourself, okay, is Tony Pollard giving you $9 million in a running back worth of investment? And that's the question that you have to have. But if you look at some of the younger guys, I mean, Breece Hall, Jake Lyman had mentioned that 3 weeks ago, right, on his show on TD Thursdays on Next Man Up. And I think that's a great option right there because he's not going to be expensive. Now, you do have the injury stuff, so that's something to look at. Or how about a Kenneth Walker, right, if he somehow shakes free from the Seahawks tree? That's another one. And then, look, the draft is chock full of running backs. A guy that I think would be pretty efficient, for them is Rasul Faison, who you probably get him late day three out of South Carolina. That's another one.
Teron, let's go back to Harbaugh because he's the guy that once he signs or picks his spot, the dominoes will probably start falling from there.
Yeah.
What do you think's realistic for the Titans and Harbaugh when you hear that he could be third? He's got some interest. He's interested here, and the Titans seem to be on the radar, but not at the very top.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the mix, and you have to wonder if that's one of those situations where, remember how, like, teams used to use our Mets, like, for collateral damage, like, hey, man,
drive the price up.
the Mets are interested, and it drives the price up. I wonder if that's a situation with the Titans. This is like another team is out there that, and it's no coincidence that it came out that, he's doing his research on Cam Ward and likes the $100 million and all that stuff that they have to spend in free agency, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to tell if it's really serious or not. You know what I mean? But my gut tells me it's the Giants, but I mean, we'll see. And they said if it's the Giants, then Stefanski goes to the Falcons or vice versa. And I mean, those are the top 2 jobs available right now. And I think, those are the top two options. Me personally, I would not want Stefanski as my coach because I just don't like that he allowed personal things to get in the way of the overarching goal, which is to win. That's just my take on that. When you look at the Shador Sanders situation, you look at the idiocracy, like how stupid it was to take your quarterback that's cooking, take him off the field when it's time to do a 2-point conversion to win the game.
Teron, before we let you go, I want to ask you the same question I asked Willie and Derek to start the show with all of this rumored interest with John Harbaugh. What should it say? What would it say about the Titans if Harbaugh grants them an interview based on the roster, the structure in the front office? Would you consider it a sort of stamp of approval if Harbaugh grants the Titans an interview, even if he doesn't take the job or want the job?
Yeah, I think it would be a stamp of approval, and it would tell you that Mike Borgonzi is for real. I personally think he is for real regardless, but I think, being able to sell this situation with this team not being one of the premier teams in the league, right? It not being a premier job, but you land at the top candidate. I think that really says a lot, or even just interest from the top candidate, an interview.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, has been our guest on D-Mays, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Monday, and he is fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution. TD, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
615-737-1025. We will get into Wild Card Weekend, the wildest card weekend. Some fantastic games in the NFL over the weekend. But you know what? I've got a giveaway. So that's what we're going to do right now. If you want a pair of tickets to see Belmont men's basketball take on Valpo at the Curb Event Center tomorrow night, be caller number 3 at 615-737-1025. A pair of tickets to see Belmont's men's basketball take on Valpo can be yours for the game tomorrow night at the Curb Event Center if you're caller number 3. 615-737-1025. Tip-off of that game, by the way, is at 6:30. So call now. Preds fans, Smashville Live returns Wednesday night at 6 p.m. on 1025 The Game, live from Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. Meet your Predators players up close and personal. You can also get autographs and pictures. The guests will be Ozzy Weisblatt and Reed Schaefer. That's Ozzy Weisblatt and Reed Schaefer this Wednesday night at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs and only on 1025 The Game. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We were treated to the wildest card weekend. It was an awesome weekend of football. The game last night between the Chargers and Patriots kind of stunk. I only sort of watched that game, but the other games were great. And I saw this statistic that puts it into its proper context from the Wall Street Journal, of all places. Since the league, meaning the NFL, expanded to a 14-team postseason in 2020, no wild card round had ever had more than a single fourth quarter lead change across all 6 scheduled games, but this year has already produced 12. And that's before the Texans and Steelers square off on Monday night.
That is surprising.
12 fourth quarter lead changes so far
I'm
this
not
weekend.
that surprised about that stat. It's just that it hasn't happened that often. I guess they're just more one-sided games in the first weekend most years,
I
apparently.
suppose. And well, there were what, 4 fourth quarter lead changes in the Rams-Panthers game. And Derek, you were right about the Panthers.
I'm jealous because I missed that game. I had to get to the
that was a
arena.
good
I
game.
did not see that one go down.
The Panthers, who were 10.5-point underdogs, at least made it interesting. The Buffalo and Jacksonville game yesterday afternoon, which was an excellent game, also had 4 fourth quarter lead changes.
Game.
That was a great game. The Green Bay Packers completely pooped themselves at the Bears. The San Francisco-Philadelphia game, it was fine, entertaining, more late lead changes. But again, it reinforced what I said late last week. The Eagles were 6-point favorites. I just didn't get that. I know that the 49ers are the walking wounded, and it's worse now because George Kittle tore his Achilles, and he's done. And so that team, which is being held together by duct tape, is going to have to go to not Seattle, right? Are they going to? Yeah, they have to go to Seattle. That's right, because they are the 6th seed. So they have to go to Seattle, and that will be interesting. But really a fabulous weekend of football. So where should we start? Should we start with Carolina making it a game against the Rams? Should we start with the Packers blowing it big time against the Bears? Buffalo and Jacksonville, Josh Allen saving himself from the narrative of had he lost in that game. The Bills' first road playoff win since 1992.
Wow. That's
So
a long time.
What game captured your attention, Derek Mason?
Oh, man. That Rams and Panthers game. I kind of figured the Jacksonville and Bills game would be a nail biter. But that Rams, even though I knew Carolina had a chance because they had beat them during the season, and it's like the Panthers don't do anything great. You just look at their team, but they're winning football games, and they've made it to the playoffs. They just look unassuming. But I knew that these were the type of games that they were going to get up for, and it was going to be closer, and I wouldn't have been surprised had they won that game. The Panthers came in with nothing to lose. The Rams came in with everything to lose. You know, they were talking about the MVP for Stafford, Puka Nacua being the best receiver, Devontae Adams just coming back. The defense is playing well. Man, this team can make it to the Super Bowl. And Carolina came into their own place with nothing to lose. And they damn near won that game. I think they should have won it, but it is what it is. They played a hard-fought game. But this could be a game that propels the Rams into the Super Bowl.
It felt like to me, Willie, that Rams-Panthers game, you see it in sports. I often bring up, for example, the 2018 first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs between the Predators and the Avalanche. The Avalanche gave the Predators all they could handle, but the gap in experience ultimately prevailed. I felt that way with this game. The Panthers gave it everything they had, but ultimately the Rams' experience won out.
I think that's fair. And I think the Rams came a lot closer to losing that game than the Predators came to losing that series back then. But
yes.
I get your point. Like, I did not expect that game to be close. I thought the Rams would win decisively.
And it didn't look like it was going to be close early on.
True. So I didn't really see how the Panthers did it. I missed the second half of that game. So my most intriguing game clearly was the Buffalo-Jacksonville game. And I ask myself, is Jacksonville a team that's on the rise in the next few years with the Titans? You're trying to keep in context. Can the Titans get back to being a front runner in that division anytime soon? Are the Jags going to stick around for a while? Historically, they never do, right? Other than those early years, Derek, when the Titans just became the Titans and you had Mark Brunell in that group, that was a consistent group for a while. Then, since then, they've had little flickers here and there for a year or two, but never a run of 5 or 6 years. They've got a quarterback that is talented enough to be that kind of guy. I don't know what Travis Hunter's going to look like in the next couple of years, but they weren't able to get over the hump. So the narrative about the Bills is very fair. And I have to believe if you're the Broncos and you see Josh Allen coming in, I do wonder how they feel about that compared to if it were Jacksonville coming in, who just beat them at Mile High decisively a couple weeks ago. I don't know how they feel about that.
How about that grown man tush-push touchdown by Josh Allen at the end of that game?
But did they let him score there? I thought they let him score.
Well, I think they let him score too. I think.
Well, wasn't he down?
Wasn't
he down?
Oh, that was to get it up to the line.
Yeah,
you're talking about that was the. That was.
Are you talking about the score, or are you talking about the play before?
I think the play before that they got him up to the 1 yard line.
Yeah, that one. I've got my tush pushes confused. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was that's probably the longest gain ever of a quarterback sneak.
I thought you couldn't pick up a person, but I guess they didn't pick him up. It looked like
it kind of looked like they gave him a lot of help one way or the other.
Man, but you're right. They got it to the half-yard line.
Yeah.
So, do you think this is the beginning of something for the Jags, or will you believe it when you see it? Missed opportunity, because they were red hot, and they couldn't quite get it done, which happens a lot. Mm-hmm. But are they back for another crack or two?
Man, it's tough because we've seen this to Jacksonville before, and the next following season they end up falling off the map. But I think the difference here is that they got the quarterback head coach match right. They got that right. And that means to me sustained, wins or sustained success. So I don't think this is just a flash in the pan for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they have a hell of a team. That defense didn't play particularly well. That last drive was 14 plays. They ran out damn near 3 minutes of the clock and left you with 49 seconds, I believe, or like a minute left. But I think offensively, they got what it takes. One of their linemen got hurt, didn't they? Didn't one of their linemen leave the game? If I'm not mistaken, their left tackle. If I'm not mistaken.
I think that was the case. I think.
Yeah, I think one of their linemen ended up leaving. And I'm not saying that's the reason they lost, but what I'm saying is that, this team has players. This team has a team that can make it to at least the AFC Championship game. So I don't think this is just 1 year by Jacksonville and then you won't see them no more. Now, will it be tough for them next year? I think it will be. But I think they'll still be in the mix.
So far, the confirmed matchups for the divisional round: Bills at Broncos. Bills favored by 1.5.
Interesting.
49ers at Seahawks. Seahawks favored by 7. Rams at Bears. Rams favored by 3.5. The Patriots will host either the Steelers or the Texans. Those two teams play tonight. Let's go to Chad.
Road favorites in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Let's go to Chad on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Chad, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Good stuff as always. One thing that really just shocks me, and maybe you can help or maybe somebody can send some insight, is, there's 50 seconds left in that Buffalo at Jacksonville game. 1st and goal on the 1, and Jacksonville has no timeouts. I just can't in my life understand why Josh Allen's not snapping the ball and down. They're letting you score, so you can put the ball wherever you want, and put the ball down on the 1-inch line. I mean, 50 seconds we've seen in the playoffs can be a lot of time. We've seen a lot of these particular two teams score a lot in the last minute, and they were bailed out, of course, by the interceptions. But I'm thinking, why are you scoring with 50 seconds left when Jacksonville has no timeouts? Put the ball on the 1-inch yard line. You just showed that you can push the ball for 10 yards. You certainly can push it for a half of an inch. What are they doing in that situation? Is it just they just can't fathom? I just don't know. To me, it's an extreme low IQ situation that could have cost them guaranteed win. And I'm just curious what you guys think about this.
It's a really good
Thanks,
question.
Chad.
I was certainly thinking about that. I do think you've got to take the touchdown. There's too many things that can happen with a false start or a fumble, a botched snap. I think you take it. So I was intrigued by that because it was pretty clear Jacksonville was playing for them to score. But that was what got me, Derek, is and I think you were on some Titans teams where Jeff Fisher was in this situation. It's a tough call for a coach. Yeah. Because if I were Jacksonville, I would have made Buffalo take the timeouts. They needed a touchdown. They kind of let them go at their own pace. They burned the timeouts, kind of like, let's hedge our bets in case they score a touchdown. How about they're not going to score a touchdown?
Well, you
make them take the timeouts. We'll keep our timeouts.
Yeah, but you got to play the other side of the coin too, which they did. Okay, what if they do score? And it's only like a couple of seconds left. Well, we had an opportunity to stop the clock, and now they got in an end zone. So now there's no time really for us to do anything. So those 3 timeouts mean nothing. I would rather have the time than the timeouts.
So you were okay with how they did it?
Yeah, I was okay with how they did it because, to me, one reason you don't stop them, because I can see if the score was, 24-24, and we just need a field goal to win, then okay. You don't score in that situation. You're more
right.
reluctant
on
to
the
score.
caller's question of whether you go ahead and take it in the end zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
So if it's 24-24, if it's 4 points, you got to score.
You got to score.
You just have to do it. But on the timeout, you're trying to save yourself as much time as possible. I think Tom Brady said this a while ago. I don't care about timeouts. It's time. That's what I need to work with. I need to work with, because I can manipulate the timeouts with going out of bounds, but I can't manipulate the time. So
I am interested in this matchup between Buffalo and Denver next week because, as I said, Josh Allen for 1 week held off the narrative of what happens if he does not get the job done. And Jacksonville is a better team this season than the Buffalo Bills. This is not Josh Allen's best Bills team, but he's Josh Allen, and he helped will that team to win. There's no Patrick Mahomes. There's no Lamar Jackson. There's no Joe Burrow. The Broncos are tough. Absolutely fantastic defense. Bo Nix is a solid quarterback. Hard place to play, all of those things. But there is, I do like when teams that are not expected to do much, or teams that are not the best versions of themselves, just have that 1 or 2 players who can will them to win. And you saw that yesterday with Josh Allen. Like, he seems dead set on eliminating the narrative that he is the best quarterback who can't win.
And he's facing maybe the best defense. Jacksonville arguably was one of the best defenses, and they got a lot done offensively against them. Now it's like a similar situation, a team that hasn't been there a lot recently. The Broncos in a, hey, we're supposed to win. We're the 1 seed. This is new to them. I'm curious what Allen, who's been around the block, right, can do against a great defense.
This didn't stop the narrative. This winning this game didn't stop the narrative.
It just delayed it for a week.
Yeah, it's delayed. It's going to keep on delayed until he has to win a Super Bowl.
One of the authors of the narrative? This guy right here.
He has to win a Super Bowl.
Oh, I seem to recall that you didn't like Josh Allen very much at one point.
Yeah, I didn't. Because he hadn't
you
proven
admit, though,
anything.
he has taken some steps forward since then.
Absolutely, he has. And I think he is an elite quarterback.
He's
right
cut
now.
down his mistake. What used to be all over him for was
the
he threw
mistakes.
too many big mistakes.
Exactly. He had arm arrogance. That's what he did. Now he's tapered it down. Now he's playing smarter. He's playing between the head, between the ears, and not with his hands, just solely with his arm. But if they don't win the Super Bowl, the narrative will still be out on Josh Allen. Why? You already said it. No Jackson, no Mahomes, no Burrow, and that's just in the AFC. And then on the NFC, only person you would think is Stafford. And Darnold's there, yes, but they figure you can beat a Darnold. But if you don't at least get to the Super Bowl, yeah, the narrative is always going to be there about Josh Allen until he wins one. That's why the narrative is still out on Lamar Jackson, because he hadn't won one. He hadn't even been to one.
Cameron says, this Bills team is not very good. It's all Josh Allen. Matthew from Jolton says, if Josh Allen can't win it this year, he won't win one in Buffalo. The stage is set for the Bills to have an opportunity. A tough game at Denver next weekend. The Bills are favored by 1.5. The Patriots will take on either the Steelers or Texans that game tonight on ESPN. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Your reaction, your takeaways from NFL Wildcard Weekend. I do still have a lingering question about the New England Patriots that I want us to discuss coming up next. I also want to play for both of you and all of you my favorite piece of audio from NFL Wildcard Weekend. I don't know why I find it so hilarious, but I'm hoping the two of you find it as funny as I did. Otherwise, I'm going to feel really stupid. 615-737-1025. Hey, it's Reaction Monday, and Reaction Mondays are brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville.
All right, time for the daily word from Lone Pronto. The New Year's move, the 2026 move. Get into a better situation financially by adjusting your mortgage rate. If you got stuck with a high mortgage rate these last couple of years, the rates have been down, and Lone Pronto wants you to pounce on that opportunity. And furthermore, if you need some money from your home's equity, some cash to pay off high interest loans like a credit card bill or a car loan, they've got you covered on that. So look into their rapid equity loan program. You can get cash out, pay off those high interest credit cards, skip up to 2 house payments in the process, and you're going to be saving thousands of dollars a month at times, at least hundreds of dollars, depending on how much lower they can get your mortgage rate. So no hard credit pull up front. You probably don't even need an appraisal. Just fast, easy cash and a better mortgage rate. So act now. LoanPronto.com is the website. The phone number is 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or LoanPronto.com. See how much cash you can get. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. APR for well-qualified buyers. Visit NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
D Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I want to play my favorite piece of audio from NFL Wildcard Weekend. You may have seen Jawan Jennings throw a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey in the 49ers-Eagles game. Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady were on the call. And I just want you to listen to the noise, the sound that Tom Brady makes in reaction to the play. I can't quite put my finger on how to describe it. Maybe the two of you can help me. Here was Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. And listen for the noise that Tom Brady makes at the end of this clip.
Sky Moore again, little trickery. Back to Juwan Jennings, who's thrown it before. Going deep, McCaffrey. He's got it. Touchdown 49ers, but there's a flag.
You can cut it, David. That ooh! I don't know how you would describe that. But when I heard that, I just started laughing uncontrollably. How would you describe that?
It's like, you know, that old cartoon where the rocking chair and the dog is sitting there and the tail goes waving under the rocking chair and it finally hits the dog tail, grabs the tail, and the dog's like, oh! That's how it sounds.
Let's play that one more time, David, if you please.
McCaffrey, he's got it.
That sounded kind of like a hound dog.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, like somebody stepped on his tail.
I started laughing.
Either that or he hit his toe. He either hit his toe or somebody stepped on him, man.
But sometimes, though, the pure excitement of sport on a team you're on or a team like you're watching, you make weird sounds. You just make weird sounds.
What I'm starting to notice is they are trying to, because what did we love about Tony Romo at the beginning, at least?
His enthusiasm.
But then he would break the play down. He was
also predicting plays.
Yes, and he was predicting plays,
yes.
But he was breaking plays down. He was giving you the science behind what was going on. And people love it, but then some people just want to watch the game and just call the game, all that other stuff. And I think people got to a point where, you know, it got to a point where he stopped doing that as much. I think that's what they're trying to get from Tom Brady, because Tom went into this long dialogue about the football and the angling of the football and
throwing into
the wind.
I thought that was interesting.
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't. It was interesting. Yeah. It was very interesting. But what I'm saying is, are they trying to make him like the quarterback savant of the network? Because before we looked at, you know, Romo as that guy, breaking it down and everything else.
You guys tell me, and I will lean on Willie as the broadcaster in the room. I feel like Tony Romo's been going like this lately.
Yeah, I think he stopped the bleeding.
I'm pointing
honestly
downward, by the way.
Yeah, I think he started off as high as you could start off. He came in and really lit it up, and he was something different with his, I would call it pre-snap reads, right? And then I think he kind of lost it a little bit as he got more removed from the game. It got a little too hyper. I think he's dialed it back a little bit. I find him much more enjoyable. I think he got to a point where I was like, Tony, just back off a little bit. You're trying too hard. I think he was hearing the criticism. So I feel like he's in a better place than he was. But it just shows you that it's not linear. Like, you do have to keep working and evolving as you grow up as an announcer.
I think he started off, like I said, the attention to detail, and he was describing everything. And like you said, it got to a point where he was calling plays before it actually happened. And at first people loved it, but I think it sort of wore on people, because it's like, okay, you're saying the same thing over. Okay, we know you know the play. Let it play out first, Tony. So I think now he's at that happy medium where, you know, he gives a little, but then he also lets the play develop. I still like Tony Romo as an announcer. I think that's what they're trying to get with Tom. And at least the specifics about playing the position.
Willie, you tell me. I think Brady has improved dramatically year over year. I
think this is only his second year.
Right, yeah.
So, yes, I agree. He's much better this year than he was, especially at the start of last year, where I really think if they could do it over again, it might have been good for him to do some lower tier games to start with to build up. And to his credit, he hasn't just mailed it in and said, hey, I'm Tom Brady. I'll do whatever I want. I do think he has, whether it be through super hard work or just the reps, I think he's definitely more comfortable.
David, can we play that sound one more time?
If you're comfortable enough to make that sound on the air, that means you're not
Hey, you're just
stressing
letting it
out.
go.
You're not insecure on the air.
We've all been there. I was watching the game upstairs and I heard that and I just started laughing uncontrollably. So my wife came upstairs and was like, what's going on? So I was like, you have to hear this. So I rewound it and I played it for her and she just stared at me like this.
This is interesting to you?
This is funny.
She didn't get it. She didn't get it.
She doesn't understand. She doesn't understand NFL commentary. Anyway, speaking of Tom Brady, I do have something to say about the New England Patriots. The Patriots won 16-3 against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. I am still unconvinced that the Patriots have beaten anybody good this season. That Chargers team, woof. And Justin Herbert, still winless in the postseason. Like, I've seen some commentary. I've read some commentary that, hey, the Patriots, they looked good. They did look good. I'm still unconvinced, Willie, that they've beaten anybody of note because that Chargers team did not look like anything last night to me.
I was very disappointed in how the Chargers played, and that was one of my tickets to the banks, unfortunately. Apparently, I tried to erase it from my memory because I was like, hey, David, I had the 49ers, right? He was like, no, you had the Chargers.
Yeah, sorry, bud. You had the Chargers.
Yes. I am the Vrabel thing is a big thing. And
it's a thing.
After the game last night, after the Predators game, of course, Hal Gill being a huge Patriots fan for life, right? He was interested after the game. We were like, hey, let's go down to Pete and Terry's. Let's watch the end of the Patriots game. They have it rolling. Like they dominated the Chargers. They ragdolled Justin Herbert, who I think is pretty good. But Justin Herbert now in 3 playoff seasons has not come up with a good game in any of them. But they punished him. They looked good. That is a tight team. That is everything that Vrabel is about. And to a person, everybody in the restaurant was like, oh man, the Titans. What were they thinking? You know, that is a big narrative right now, right? It's hindsight's 2020 because at the time I thought, look, how many coaches go for like John Harbaugh for 18 years in one spot? Very few. And that's what you were facing if you were to keep Vrabel. Am I wrong? They would have gone through a down cycle.
Yes.
I don't think Vrabel would have made magic out of these last couple of teams, right?
No.
If he were staying, they would have gone and taken their lumps. But it doesn't change the fact that he is a really good football coach.
Jeff says, didn't the Patriots beat the Bills on the road? I believe that is true. They did beat the Bills. I think that
they beat the Bills
early in the season.
Yeah, early in the season.
Yes.
Bills
and then the Bills had a big comeback and beat them in New England a couple years ago.
The Chargers were only the 3rd playoff team that the Patriots defeated this season. They defeated the Chargers, they defeated the Bills, and they defeated the Panthers. So that's my point. Yes, the Patriots have beaten some good teams, but I haven't seen them beaten. I haven't seen that real statement win. Maybe the Bills win on the road can count as the quote unquote statement win. My overall point is I'm impressed by what I've seen from the Patriots, but I'm not ready to coronate them anytime at this point.
Right. Okay. So what do you think of the Vrabel thing that is definitely on all Titans fans' minds right now?
I'm with you from this standpoint. I don't think this would have been a winning team with Vrabel the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes. It showed itself the second half and the next following season when the talent just wasn't there. So people got to understand, I mean, every situation isn't the same. Just because he's having success, he had success here, but just because he's having success now in New England doesn't mean then that would have translated here at that particular time. This was a bad team. He was the head coach of the team that lost the last 8 games. He was the head coach of the team, wasn't he? that ended up getting the first pick in the no, was he? He had 2 losing seasons back to back, his last 2 seasons. So, people, what makes you think that he was going to change it when the talent hasn't changed?
7-10 and 6-11.
Yes.
To end his Titans career.
So this team didn't go to the playoffs either year, and the roster was steady by year. It was eroding. When he took hold of this team, he took a team ready to win, and he enhanced it. And they did win. He had great seasons here. But once the talent started to get older, they started trading a few guys, and they were looking at these second-tier guys now that should be ready to go. They just didn't develop them.
I just think that the Patriots did not scream Super Bowl contender to me last night. I think the Patriots took advantage of an overrated Chargers team. And by the way, as Willie noted, Justin Herbert now 0-3 in his first postseason starts. He is the 4th quarterback this century to go winless in his first 3 postseason starts, joining Andy Dalton, Matt Ryan, and Matthew Stafford.
I was very disappointed in the Chargers part of this because I do think they were a very good team during the regular season. I thought the Chargers had gone to the next level. So what does that mean for the Patriots? I think it was the perfect storm for Vrabel, where he jumps on board after they sunk to their lowest. They have the quarterback that he's able to take to the next step. He hires the right coordinator, and they take full advantage of a weaker schedule. It's one thing to say you have a weak schedule and you finish, 9-8. That would have been a successful year, but they maxed out with the easy schedule. So that's to their credit. And they're going to play another home game because of it. At least one more home game.
They don't do, and again, we saw it here for about 3-4 years. They don't do much to hurt themselves, meaning New England.
The old complimentary football thing.
They play really good defense, and they play offense at a pace where we're not going to do anything that's going to hurt us. Now, I mean, Drake May did throw a few errant passes. He had an interception, I believe. But when it comes down to it, like in those critical downs, everybody knows what to do, and they do not beat themselves. That's what he's managed to, in a short amount of time, to get with this New England team. Is they aren't the most talented team out there. They're not. But they don't do anything to beat themselves either.
615-737-1025. The Patriots will host either the Steelers or Texans next weekend. That game, by the way, Steelers and Texans tonight, a 7:15 kickoff on Monday Night Football. 615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction to Wild Card Weekend. Just an outstanding slate of games. But let's talk college football playoff, because Indiana did the thing again. The Hoosiers appear to be an unstoppable force. And now it's Indiana in Miami and the national championship game that absolutely no one saw coming. We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or some type of goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some news, and it's good, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Actually, before we move on to the college football playoff national title game, which was set since we last spoke to all of you, I forgot to mention Nick Sirianni, A.J. Brown screaming at each other, looking like they were promoting a boxing match face-to-face.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen in Philadelphia, but I don't think it's going to be good.
It won't be dull.
Nah, it definitely won't
People
be
just
dull.
they'll let it blow over. What's the big Philly fans? They'll let it slide.
Yeah, Philly fans,
They don't
they're
care.
very rational. They're not going to freak out at all.
Not at all.
No,
So
but
there you go.
something's going to come to a head, and I think we've probably seen the last.
And
of
I'm sure A.J.
in
Brown
Philly.
won't say anything.
Oh, he definitely won't say anything over
Yeah, he won't
summer.
say anything.
He won't go on social
media
media or
at
anything.
all.
He's not going to go on social media. He's not going to do anything. Don't worry about it, people. Yeah, okay.
Get ready.
Okay, get ready. But I mean, listen, again, Philadelphia, there was a point where it didn't seem like they wanted to be out there. And I know we're going to get to the national championship game now, but watching Philadelphia, it was just at points of the game, it was like, do y'all even enjoy being out there together?
That offense is uninspiring.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. With all that talent.
Do you
Yeah.
think people have
Talent
just figured them out?
everywhere.
Say that again.
Do you think that teams just figured them out more this year, or were they just not as sharp, as motivated?
I don't think they
As
were
the
sharp as
defending
motivated.
I would say
Yeah.
the latter.
Yeah. I
From
don't think
afar.
they were. They won their Super Bowl, and it was like, we got it. They just don't. They don't look like the team I think everybody thought they should have been after winning the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
It is hard to repeat.
Indeed. The national championship game is set in college football, and that is after Indiana did it again. Just steamrolling opponents.
Unbelievable.
56-22 against Oregon.
And it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. Fernando Mendoza, 17 of 20, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns. Now, for a moment, I think we can all agree, right, that Fernando Mendoza at this point is probably going to be the number one pick in the draft, right? Which team
As we sit here today,
Yes.
it would seem.
Which team has the number one pick in the draft?
The Raiders.
Can you imagine Fernando Mendoza in Las Vegas?
For the Raiders, like
The
the outlaw
Raiders.
team that's got this, like, we're the rebels, we're the, we're the
Listen,
renegades.
Fernando Mendoza, who has extreme debate team energy.
Band camp.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has extreme debate team energy, and he seems like a lovely young man.
But
Can you imagine him in Las Vegas? I'm afraid, Derek, that what you have said
gonna
happened
happen.
to Mike
It's
McDaniel in
gonna
Miami
happen, yes.
is going to happen to Fernando Mendoza in
it's
Las
going to
Vegas.
happen to Fernando Mendoza. He's going to walk in the choir. What did you say? The
He has extreme debate team energy.
debate team captain. He walks in as debate team captain, and he may walk out. I don't know. Pick anything that you think resembles.
He's going to be
Vegas.
dressing like Mike McDaniel.
Yeah,
He's going to have a gold chain with a white beater on.
He's going to have the head-to-toe Gucci fit.
Yeah.
In the black and silver.
Just the image of the Raiders traditionally. Now this goes back.
He's gonna
a
be
long
driving
way.
a
Like,
black and silver Cadillac.
like Al Davis, John Madden,
With
Kenny
24s on 'em.
Stabler, Cliff Brandt, like all the wacky people they've had
Exactly.
over the years. That's sort of their foundation.
Lau Zato.
Yeah, it's just so different than that.
But Indiana continues to just surprise
Man,
people. And maybe we
with
shouldn't
ease,
be surprised
It's so
anymore.
easy for them.
It is.
It's not supposed to be easy.
No, it shouldn't be easy. And yet it is. And now Indiana goes on to take on Miami, the number 1 seed versus the number 10 seed in the college football playoff, the national title game at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami.
Now that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, Fernando Mendoza from Miami.
Mhm.
So a lot of geographical ties there. And Willie, I think these two teams are perfect foils for one another. Indiana versus Miami. Indiana does everything with such precision. Miami, they're dogs. The Hurricanes, they're dogs, and they are willing to take some penalties, and they are aggressive. So I think this is a great matchup on paper.
Indiana, as I look now, 8.5-point favorites. With the game being played in Miami, what do you think the location of the game has to do with the point spread?
Maybe
worth a couple points, maybe?
Yeah, I would say a field goal, maybe.
Not that Miami has this enormous fan base,
but
where their fans are is very localized, right? That's always been a local fan base. That's not been a national, not even a statewide fan base, really. Miami's got its own thing going. And the national stuff is more of a going way back to if you connected with that team, the U, right? And there have been, 2 30 for 30s on the U?
It's been a few.
I mean, it's compelling, right? So maybe that's what drew you to Miami. I am curious, though, when you actually count heads in the stadium, who has the edge in the crowd? It can make a difference in a game.
Apparently, the Peach Bowl was 90% Indiana fans.
I mean, they've got that is the state university. Everybody in the state, there's not a Michigan State. Indiana State is a different level, right? They're not. They're not in the same conference. There is an Indiana State. They've got good basketball, but it's nothing like IU. So you've got this new thing. I would imagine half the state's going to be down there.
Yeah, it
Getting
is.
sunburned, probably a little pale up there in Indiana.
Yeah, especially this time of year. It's cold, freezing, man. Need some sun. This game, to me, you got two teams, I think, they look to play the same way. Both teams are physical and aggressive. Both teams are led by their quarterback. Both teams have dynamic receivers, really good running backs. Both teams' defenses, they come after you. I think Indiana may do it a little bit different as far as schematic-wise, but both teams, they come at you. They got players on defense, Indiana does, as well as the Hurricanes. This is going to be, is there a possibility that Indiana runs through the college football playoffs like LSU did? There could be, because LSU just steamrolled everybody that got in front of them. It wasn't even close. And it seems like that's the way Indiana's going. They're just steamrolling everybody on their way to the national championship game. And Miami has done it a different way. But on defense, they've showed up each and every game. Now you got two teams that, they look different, but I think they play the same. Their coaches are totally different, but I think they play exactly the same type and brand of football. Just because one's up north and one's down south don't mean they don't play. One plays a physical brand of football and one plays both of them play a physical brand of football. It looks different, but it's the same exact football, and they don't do much to beat themselves. What it's going to come down to is the two quarterbacks. I think the defenses are going to play well. Which one of these quarterbacks is going to make the play that they need to make to win the game?
And the pass rush has a lot to do with it. Like Miami, I have not seen a game that Mendoza, now, I didn't see every Indiana game. We mentioned last week when I was defending the SEC's honor as the resident SEC snob about the challenges week to week. The weakest teams in the SEC can still give you a run, unlike the weakest teams in the Big Ten that Indiana absolutely throttled. But Miami, as we know, with Bain and those guys, they can get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
I want to see if they can disrupt the rhythm. Because Mendoza, what did you say? His numbers were what? 17 for 20.
5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns. That was like dummy offense. That was like if you had defense was air, is almost what it looked like. It was just execution. Like, where's the read? Here's the read. Here's the throw. It wasn't disrupted with the timing. He made some great throws into tight windows, don't get me wrong, but it was all in the rhythm. Nobody disrupted the rhythm the whole time. The only team that maybe sort of did it was Ohio State. It slowed them down. But Miami does have a pretty exceptional front. And so that's where I want to see.
Josh from Murfreesboro says, as an IU fan, I appreciate you not mentioning Purdue. Another texter says, the average age of an Indiana player is 23. Maturity might be the reason.
Yeah, they do have an old team, older.
That worked for Vanderbilt.
Worked for Vanderbilt, and it's worked for other teams across college football, but not to a point where they're on the stage that the Hoosiers are. But I think I want it to be a good game. From what I've seen from these two teams through the playoffs, I think it's going to be a good game. But then again, I thought Oregon and Indiana was going to be a good game. And from the snap of the ball, Dante Moore still was seeing ghosts.
So how much do you say that was more not playing the way he was capable, or was it Indiana's pressure? Because I think about that with
Indiana
Beck,
pressure. I think it was his
Beck
pressure.
Can be pressured. He can make mistakes. And if they get after him like they get after Moore, I think Beck will throw him 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think Moore just after that pick six, I know he went down and scored on the next possession. But throughout that whole game, they were just harassing him and confusing him in the secondary. And I don't understand sometimes when, this is why I said athletes, sometimes you can't be fully transparent with the media or anything. You just can't be. Some things you have to keep with you. It came out that this young man said he was seeing ghosts the first time they played.
That would be
that's
in
like
quarterback 101.
Say that.
These are things you'd never say. Don't ever say that.
You just don't say that. Like they confuse me. I see it. You just don't say that.
Even if you think it.
Exactly.
Don't say it.
Because what it looked like in the second game was you were seeing the same ghost.
They should have learned from Sam Darnold when he was with
exactly.
the Jets.
Like there are some times you're going to go out there and the defense just has your number and you just don't know what's going on. But you don't come out and say, yeah, I was just seeing ghosts, man. No. Like Willie said, that's quarterbacking 101. Do not admit to the adversary that they got you.
I think of Bull Durham. Crash Davis tells Nuke LaLoosh, he said, they're going to light you up when you get to he says, I'm going to the big leagues. They're going to light you up, but don't ever, you stay cocky is what he said. Like, don't ever act like you're not good enough. Always act like, oh, that was, they were lucky. I'll be all right. Don't admit that you're a weakness.
Quickly on the A.J. Brown front, Alex from Franklin says, I know it was a bad trade and it resulted in losing, but the Titans weren't wrong about trading A.J. Brown. They knew what a bad teammate he was.
I don't. Okay. I think A.J.
still a what if.
I think A.J.'s. I don't think he's a bad teammate. I just think sometimes players like A.J., when things aren't going well, sometimes it's almost like they just let it all come out. There's no filter with them. It just all comes out at that moment. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's a bad teammate. I just think he has these moments where it's like, if things ain't going right, y'all need to give me the ball. Y'all not giving me the ball, or, forget it. And it's almost his body language gives off that type of energy. I don't think he's a bad teammate. I don't think he's a hell of a player, but I think in those moments where things are going wrong, instead of him being that guy that just says, okay, I'm just going to keep on pushing, keep on pressing. There's always this, when something's wrong. When something's going wrong, it. Just look at AJ. He'll tell you. His demeanor is going to tell you. And he hasn't figured out how to, no matter what's going on in the game or what's going on in the building, the body language that you put forth means a lot. Because everybody's watching you. You are the marquee player. You are the dude. You that guy. And anytime there's any hint of, disgruntlement, he shows it in his body language and everybody picks it out. So that thing where he and the coach, listen, that stuff happens, but I'm not going to dismiss it and say, oh, their relationship is great. I'm not going to dismiss it and say that because I don't know if it is or not. But I know things like that do happen, and sometimes the relationship is great, but then sometimes the relationship it ain't great. So I don't know which one it is.
615-737-1025. One texter says, I don't know if you've talked about this already, But are the comments about John Harbaugh liking what he sees in Tennessee true? Well, we will revisit that coming up next because I do have another question relating to John Harbaugh. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, call Law Tigers for your free case evaluation. Even if your motorcycle accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve. They don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear means to you, and they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. So call 1-800-LAW Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. And don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predators Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indian. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. The Tennessee Titans are still seeking a head coach. Applicants need not apply. They'll call you. Don't call them. But John Harbaugh is still out there. And there were reports over the weekend connecting Harbaugh to the Titans in some form or fashion. For example, Diana Rossini of The Athletic posted on Saturday, quote, John Harbaugh is spending today and the next few days watching film specifically on quarterbacks Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. He's also been in contact with team decision makers while continuing to communicate with potential members of his own coaching staff. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, said that the quote unquote realistic landing spots, this was Saturday, as of now, were the Giants, Dolphins, Titans, and Falcons. We had one texter just say, are these reports true? One texter responded and said, Harbaugh just said that to be polite. And maybe that's true. We've all been there, right? We've all said things we didn't really mean just so that we could be polite.
But this is why I think the process is important. The day-to-day, what's your attack when you wake up in the morning on the search, right? Somebody on your committee, right? And Mike Borgonzi did say there is a committee, right? Yes. He mentioned 4 guys. Somebody has got to be on, all right, let's see if can we really gauge before we sit back and wait for the phone call. Like, how do we gauge the real interest level of Harbaugh to where we say this is where we need to set our sights? We have a realistic shot, as opposed to how many other people are they going to interview? There's a bunch that they already have, and then there's another list, a very long list of people they intend to interview.
Would they interview how many already? 4?
They've confirmed 7 interviews so far.
Man, that's a lot. I mean, listen, with this organization, they have to explore every option. You know, I don't see why they shouldn't continue to, see what John is thinking. And, I would try to make a run for him just like any other team out there. I wouldn't think, we have no shot at him. So we're not going to really, play in that pool. No, I think they should pull out all the stops. If this is the guy they want and the guy they feel that's going to change their franchise or help change their franchise, then pull out every stop you need to pull out. Because you got to get it right this time. Every time you should, but this time you really got to get it right.
So I want to ask you two a question that Mike Sando posed in his weekly column on The Athletic. John Harbaugh looks like the hottest candidate in 2025. Should he be in the 2025 coaching cycle, I should say? Should he be? Mike Sando writes, quote, when the Ravens fired Harbaugh after 18 seasons, 12 playoff appearances, and 1 championship, the 63-year-old coach instantly became the most qualified candidate in the market. His resume speaks for itself, but how much of Harbaugh's success with the Ravens is exportable? Where's the bell? I'm going to give Mike Sando a bell for exportable. Hold on. Derek, your bag of salad is in the way.
I'm sorry.
There.
Bag of salad.
From an executive from another team, quote, Harbaugh gives you a system and a leader. If you are an organization that is rudderless, he gives you that direction. He automatically establishes a standard and a belief. But you could say that about Pete Carroll as well, and that has not changed with him, but organizational dysfunction is dysfunction.
Yeah, it is. Okay. We rank these head coaches by what have they done in this league? And it's no different than any other sport. When they fire a head coach, it's, what's your resume look like? How did you put together a team? What did you do with that team? So that is going to, and some people, may not care that John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl and has had one of the best, runs of any head coach out there. when you're just talking about wins. I'm not talking about Super Bowls. When you're talking about wins, and some people may look at that as, you know what? Yeah, he did that back in the day, or he did that some years ago. Is he still that same coach? Well, I would tend to think, because I go back to, he's sort of reinvented himself sort of every 8 years, it seemed. The 8 years, 9 years or whatever. He's reinvented himself from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson. Nothing tells me that he can't reinvent himself again to coach another team to a championship. Some people think it's probably over. He had his best chance in Baltimore. But then again, I think his method of doing things, I think it travels.
Okay.
And I don't think I think people were kind of looking at it like, look at what happened to Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he spent all that time in New England, and then once time left and it went bad, he was done. He couldn't coach. That's not John Harbaugh.
Now, you have to admit, though, it's theory because it hasn't been tested anywhere else besides Baltimore. But I would agree. The thing that he's got going for him, I think, and I don't think anybody can do it alone. That's another thing that we have learned over the years, that in Baltimore for 18 years, he had really good consistency. That was the gist of the Albert Breer clip that we played earlier, that the continuity, the environment that's created helps the coach be able to have the consistent product year in and year out. So he's going to have to recreate that with a different group around him. So I think he certainly knows how to, how to create his groove and what the culture should look like, but he is going to need some help, and it's new.
Yeah, he's going to need some help. I'm wondering this: is it more so, does this team fit me? I know it, yeah, obviously, but I think people are looking at it from Titans end. Well, does he fit with the Titans? Can they pay him the money? But in his mind, do the Titans fit what I see or what I envision moving forward? Is management running the way that I saw ran in Baltimore, where we had the success that we had? Is that sort of the same template or formula that they're using here? Because I know that formula is tried and tested and it's true, because it went through 2 iterations of quarterbacks, 2 iterations of head coaches and GMs. And that same template has worked. They won a Super Bowl with Billick and Ozzie, and then they won a Super Bowl with John and Ozzie, or John and DeCosta.
Well, here's an interesting note from Mike Sando in this column. There is no precedent for head coaches succeeding or failing after leaving the Ravens, because his only 2 predecessors never coached again.
Yeah.
Brian Billick never coached again, and help me pronounce this last name, Ted
Marchibroda.
Neither of them coached after.
Ted Marchibroda was at the end of the rope. He had coached for a long time in some different places. So yeah, that's interesting. It's very Steeler-like, right?
So you believe, Derek, that John Harbaugh's way of doing things can work outside of Baltimore?
I think he can. I think with Billick, it was a little bit different. I just think Billick was, however, I think it wore on people, in a sense. I don't feel that way about John. And not to say, and I think the offense that Billick was trying to run, it was like, would he have been able to reinvent himself if he would have came back to coaching? Possibly, but he never, or no one chose to hire him, or he just never put his name back in the pool of head coaches potential to be hired by a team. But what I do know is that even though John hasn't been anywhere but Baltimore as a head coach, now he was in Philly as a coordinator with special teams. The same thing that I've seen from Nick Saban, same thing I've seen from John. These things, or Jeff, the way they coach and the culture that they build, it travels. And I think whatever the things that John was doing in Baltimore with the help of the GM and whatnot. I think he's able to take that, reinvent it a little bit, but still have the same template, but reinvent himself as a coach with that same template.
Here's more from Mike Sando. Quote, what gives Harbaugh an edge? He's known as an excellent coach of fundamentals and someone capable of putting together a strong staff. His brother Jim is strong in those areas as well, and he's won everywhere he has coached. But as a former quarterback, Jim adds another dimension. Perhaps no one is better at instilling confidence in players of all experience levels at that position. Here's a quote from another executive, which I really enjoyed. Quote, the Giants or Tennessee would probably be the best spots for John. If I'm the Giants, I need somebody to be an adult. Even if a younger coach is the right guy, I don't know if they can afford it right now. They need a steady the ship guy, someone who can say, I don't give a bleep what has happened in the last 20 years. This is what we are about. Tom Coughlin was that. But you can take the Giants and put the Titans in there as well. The Titans probably need somebody to be an adult, a steady the ship guy, someone who can say, I don't give a bleep what has happened over the past few years.
I think that can be an important thing because it's human. I think it's easy for people to say, well, obviously you want to turn the page from what has been an environment that has got, but not everybody can do it. And think about the chore that Clark Lee did, for example, for Vanderbilt football, because he has worked a long time. It took years and it's still not permanent, right? They have to keep doing it to put it more and more in the rear view. But the image of Vanderbilt football, the image of Indiana football was so entrenched in, well, these guys never do any well. You know, they've never had any success. To be able to truly have your team walk into the building every day and not think about that takes time. And I think it would probably take less time in a pro environment, but it's not nothing, right?
No, it's not nothing. I think John did the same thing when he got to Baltimore. There are things he had to establish and a culture that he had to sort of re-energize. I'm not going to say build. He had to re-energize and immerse himself and sort of fix the cracks or the leaks wherever they were. And he was able to do that. And then he was able to build onto it. Again, he comes here. I think he does the exact same thing. He builds the culture along with Brinkert and Borgonzi, more importantly, Borgonzi. But he's working from a different template than he did when he came to Baltimore. I think we were at that time, we had a veteran team.
Yeah. It wasn't a rebuild.
Exactly. It wasn't a rebuild. He had to, he had to be a head coach of a team with the rookie quarterback. But we had enough guys in the locker room that all bought in, veteran guys that all bought in, that the transition was not as bad. Because sometimes you have a new coach come in and it just doesn't go well. Guys don't buy in, whatnot. But we bought in. I think in this situation, it's different. You have really one leader. Not to say you can't potentially have more, but at this point, there's one leader, and that's Jeff. So now you got to build a house with one leader.
Yeah, not a huge foundation.
Exactly, not a huge foundation. So to me, if he really wants to set that foundation and get it to where he wants it, he comes here because he can get it exactly how he wanted with the help of Borgonzi. I think every other place, you got to deal with things, and he may take the other jobs, but there are things you got to deal with, and they're in different. Right now, it's almost like you got a clean slate.
Jake from Nashville on our text line says, with all the interviews the Titans are conducting, what are the chances that the narrative of the Titans being super picky to ensure they get the right coach is actually more that the candidates are saying no because they don't want to work for the organization?
I think that's overthinking it. I mean, you have to let the process play out. I'm trying not to overanalyze the fact that they're interviewing a lot of people, right? I think that's just how they're trying to go. I don't know if it's I would be reading into it too much, in my opinion, if I were thinking, well, it's because they're worried a lot of people are going to say no. I think it's one of 32 jobs of its kind in the world. And so I think you're going to get – you have to find the right candidate for you because there will be good candidates that want that job.
The only person that, in a sense, can pick where he wants to go is John Harbaugh. Those other coaches can't do it. Not even Mike McCarthy, I think. They can't pass up a job and say, oh, I'll get one next year. No, you ain't in the same stratosphere as John Harbaugh. And I know Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. But people don't look at Mike McCarthy in the same sort of light as they look at John Harbaugh, even though they both have won a Super Bowl. So all the rest of these coaches outside of John, maybe throw another coach in there. I don't know. He's the only guy that can call his shot, in a sense. The other guys, no, they can't. Now, they may end up taking a job that they wanted, but it's not like John. Like, John could just sit back and just like, okay, which one? I got to pick out a litter. I can go to any team right now, and they say yes. I don't think the other coaches are like that.
One texter says, I think John Harbaugh and Mike McCarthy are the top two candidates. Amy has too much, on the line to risk going for anything other than a proven head coach. And there are a lot of available coaches who have done the job of head coach before. And there are exciting potential first-time head coaches. Jesse Minter, Clint Kubiak, Jeff Hafley, although I think the Packers' demise against the Browns may not reflect well on the Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, but we'll see. I just think there are too many coaches who have experience that it makes me feel like the Titans' next coach is going to be someone with experience, which I think we all, when we first started this exercise, I think we all wanted somebody who had previously done the job, correct?
Yeah. I think it'd be hard to sell the fans on somebody that hasn't had that experience. Now, they may end up picking someone that, it'd be their first time head coach situation. But I'm not sure how well that will go over to the fan base. Because if it doesn't work, like if they get somebody that's a little bit more seasoned, say Harbaugh, and say they win 6 games next year or whatever, they still don't go to the playoffs. I think people will feel better if it's John Harbaugh moving forward. But if they win 3, 4, 5 games with somebody else, the fan base is going to be upset. You had a chance to go get John Harbaugh and you didn't do it. Not looking at the team developing, they're just looking at wins and losses. So
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. We'll take your thoughts on John Harbaugh and the Titans coaching search, which continues. But coming up next, let's have a chat about something that has gone viral during NFL wildcard weekend. I have seen so many differing opinions on this subject, and it may not seem important, and honestly, it really isn't, but I do want to discuss it because it's been making the rounds all weekend long. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
just want to tell you congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank
You
you.
hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank
And you
you.
did a great job out there today. So
Appreciate
you
it.
just hold your head up, okay?
Thanks,
And ladies
ma'am.
and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all
Thank
right?
you, ma'am.
keep it going. We got another season,
I
okay?
appreciate
Take
it.
care and much continued success to you and the entire team.
Thank you, man.
All righty. That was Lynn Jones Turpin of the Jacksonville, Florida Free Press at the post-game news conference after the Jags lost to the Bills yesterday. And man, oh man, did that piss off journalism Twitter. It was everywhere.
Is there a thing?
Yes.
Journalism Twitter.
Journalism Twitter.
Is there a hashtag with that? Or is that just a general thing that
hashtag Big J Journos? I don't know. I'm coming up with one off the top of my head. Joe Rex wrote Spears journalism Twitter as far as I'm concerned. But there was so many differing opinions on this. And my opinion on it was that it was incredibly cringeworthy. Now, it was a beautiful sentiment by Miss Lynn Jones Turpin. I feel like I could use a pep talk like that every day. Duval, you the one. Just every day, look myself in the mirror. You the one.
The affirmation.
Yes,
right?
I need that affirmation. But
and you it's the first time I think I've ever heard that in that setting, right?
Yes.
That's what made it strange. And that's why everybody is weighing in on it, because I think probably, first of all, you go back about 30 years, maybe a little bit more than 30, the footage of a press conference was not as readily available as it is today, where every press conference is up in its entirety forever, right? You could probably find just about any press conference you want after any random game. So the exposure that you have now is different, but also journalism is different, right?
It is. And as someone who went to journalism school and always wanted to be a journalist, studied to be a journalist, when I heard that, so I first saw it because Adam Schefter reposted it and said, an awesome exchange between Liam Cohen and the reporter. And I was like, is it going to be insightful? Is it going to be combative? And then I heard that. And
I thought the same thing. And the fact that he put it out there was significant in this whole thing because Adam Schefter is who he is.
And I've Pat McAfee posted a screed on social media. It was too long to read, but it was basically like, those journalists, they're getting buried for being curmudgeons. Our show, we've got 0 journalists on our show. You don't have to act like this. And I get that. Ben Baby, and yes, his actual name is Ben Baby. Ben Baby, who is the ESPN NFL Nation Bengals reporter. He is the Bengals version of Teron Davenport. He posted about this yesterday, and I think he nailed it. And these are my thoughts as well. We've reached the point where media should not discuss media ethics publicly. Even if the overwhelming majority of media members agree, the public will not get the media's viewpoint. Along those same lines, there's not enough people who currently work in media who hold traditional ethics. Too many people cheer for the team they cover or are happy to carry water, so it's a losing battle on multiple fronts. That I agree with his sentiment there, because we journalists, we like to do a lot of navel gazing. Are you familiar with this term, navel gazing?
I think
it doesn't sound good.
Excessive.
It doesn't sound
self-focused introspection, often with a negative connotation of useless self-absorption. So journalists, by and large, think that they are the most important thing in the world.
Right. Well, you're holding the line for what you've been taught, right?
Right.
And there's probably a lot of noble substance to that, right? Because you went to school for it.
Yes.
You've been taught how it's supposed to be done. And it does get challenged with the way things are just, not just with sports journalism, but all journalism getting blurred with how everything gets put out there to how we absorb it.
And if Lynn Jones Turpin, if she wanted to pull Liam Cohen aside after the news conference out in the hallway and say exactly what she said, I mean, do you? That's fine. But to do it in the news conference, again, it made me cringe. And I do say this as respectfully as I can. And it's not meant to be insulting to our listeners or anybody who consumes sports journalism or journalism in general. I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what a journalist's job entails. We'll keep it specifically to sports journalism. People would ask me all the time, do you root for the Nashville Predators? The answer was no. I do not root for the Nashville Predators. I root for the story. So if the story that I want to write is best served by the Predators winning a game, I would root for that outcome. If my story was best served by the Predators losing or a certain player scoring, I would pull for that outcome in my own head because it's going to make a better story if this is the outcome.
But
now,
is that something you were taught, or is that how you
that's
evolved?
Me personally.
That's you personally.
That's
okay.
me
So that's not journalism school necessarily.
No, but I never rooted for the Nashville Predators.
Now, in journalism school,
yes,
that part of it right there. Do they try to teach you that you have to maintain?
You have to be
objectivity.
Yes,
that you shouldn't root for the team that you cover.
Yes. But objectivity is
because you took it one step further when you said I'm rooting for the story.
Yes.
I think that's a different thing than what you are taught as a journalist to maintain the even keel.
Yes. Objectivity, of course, is a big part of journalism in general. And I get it. When you're around a team every day, when you report on a team every day, you get to know the players, the coaches, the general manager, you develop relationships. You want what's best for them ultimately because you get to know them on a personal level. But you do have to separate that from doing your job. Again, another personal example. I enjoyed working with David Poile for as long as I did. And David Poile and I had a good relationship, but sometimes it was contentious because David did not like the things I wrote or the things I asked him. And it was part of the deal. It wasn't personal, but it had to be a little adversarial sometimes. And I think what you saw yesterday was the extreme. An independent reporter should not be consoling a coach at the end of a playoff game. That should not happen. But as many people have noticed and many people have noted, the world of journalism is so much different now.
Right. So let me ask you a question, Derek. When let's take what McAfee said, right? His thing is everybody's got teams that they root for, right? Mm-hmm. So he is from a different school. He is not from the school of journalism, to say the least, but he is obviously a guy that has a lot of influence. Do you think anybody, Derek, truly is unbiased? I would argue that everybody's got biases somewhere that they have to try and navigate through, no matter what they're covering.
Yeah, you have a bias toward whether it be the story, like you, Adam, whether it be the team, the head coach, a player. It don't matter. When you're writing a story, you have to try whatever those biases are. You have to try as best you can is to put those biases to the side. I think people are scared to say that they have biases or say that they root for the team that they're covering. I'm not saying that's you, Adam, but it's okay. The landscape of sports has changed. The landscape of journalism has changed across the board. Sports, whatever, it's changed. It's not our Walter Cronkites or these people that's really doing, in it, the trenches and everything else. I respect that type of journalism. I didn't want to be a journalist in school. Didn't even think about it. I wanted to be a communications major, and I was that. But I think in this situation, and this is just how I feel, because there's so much tearing down of a coach, and we all do it. We all criticize coaches and players alike. It don't matter. Some go further than others. But we do it, and we have to do it. Some know how to do it in an elegant way. Some just don't. I think what this lady did, young lady, older lady, I think what she did was okay. I truly believe in a world full of all this other crap that we talk about and people getting on people and people wanting you to misstep at every turn. When it may not, just because you felt it wasn't the right place, don't mean it wasn't the right place. Get out of your feelings. Get out of it. Who cares what you feel? Oh, it wasn't the right place. Damn it. Then what is the right place? The right place is when I say it's the right place.
Not in a news conference.
It doesn't
setting.
matter. It doesn't to y'all or to somebody else. And I'm not saying that y'all are wrong. I'm not. Y'all would have been wonderful with that lady going off on Liam Cohen, his team. Y'all had a terrific season. Y'all ended up blowing it in the playoffs, yada, yada. Y'all would have loved that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at her go at Liam Cohen.
So you're saying an extreme in the other way is accepted.
It's accepted.
An extreme
and
this
then
way is not.
When a lady comes, it could have been a man.
Now
I don't care who it could have been.
That's a fair question to you, Adam, as the guardian of the journalist. Sometimes the baited questions that Derek, as a former athlete, is sensitive to. I get sensitive. Sometimes the trap question where you're playing gotcha with the coach. That is not accepted by everybody, but it is accepted. I'm asking the tough question. So that is the other extreme. So I think that's a fair comeback. Not that I would say that this one does this move the needle positively or negatively in the world? No. It's an interesting example. I would think that every journalism class is probably having this discussion, hopefully having it maturely, and saying, look, would you do it again? And I feel like I didn't get a chance to hear her. She's spoken about it. And I didn't get a chance to hear what she said. I'm curious whether she would, if the same thing happens next year,
do it again?
Would she say the same thing? Because look, she said it. It's gonna be. But how do you feel about the other thing? Do journalists come down hard on somebody who's clearly trying to bait a coach or a player?
It's a good question. I do think people are more accepting of the opposite, which is the tough, combative,
gotcha.
Not always gotcha questions. I understand that point. Not always gotcha questions. I mean, I'll give you another personal example. We have Barry Trotz on the show every week. We'll have Barry Trotz on tomorrow. We haven't seen Barry live and in living color in a few weeks. We will see him tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena at 5:00. When things weren't going well, I did feel a certain responsibility to ask tough questions to Barry Trotz. I don't think I asked gotcha questions to Barry Trotz, but I don't think I would have been doing my job and serving all of you if I weren't asking tough questions about Andrew Burnett and the state of the team and players being traded and all of those sorts of things. But I try to be as fair as I can. But I look, what the woman said, it was a really nice sentiment. As you said, Derek, we need more of that in life. We need people who lift us up versus tear us down. Just don't do it at a news conference. You can follow Liam Cohen out of the room, pull him aside, and say literally the exact same thing. I just think that it for as often as people pile on journalists for the pointed questions they ask, people are going to see this clip and be like, man, those journalists, they're soft, man. They're soft. They don't ask the tough questions.
That. I think it should just be, this is what this particular journalist decided to say in the moment. I don't know if that's ever been done. I don't know if anybody else will do it. I don't think this is going to start a trend.
I think people have, not to that extreme, but I think people have done it. They have complimented the coach in press conference.
I think the way to do it, you tell me, Adam, if this would be out of line, to say, hey, coach, before I ask this question, I just want to say thanks for your professionalism and congratulations on a good season. Now, here's my question. And not just, did she ask a question? I can't pretend I wasn't there for the whole press conference.
I don't know if she actually asked a question. I assume she did because she was speaking at the news conference, but the only part that went viral is the part that we play.
But I think because
make it a little quicker, you know?
I think because she went, she elaborated on it and explained, what she was thanking him for, and who his team was, and who she felt his team was, or felt his team is. I think to people that, oh, you don't say that, but we've heard plenty of times at the beginning of a press conference or an interview where you congratulate the coach or you congratulate the player. Great win. You've done a great job. Good job, coach. With your team this year.
But I'm also one
congratulations on a win. Aren't you still speaking highly on this person? I know it wasn't like what she said, but we can't. Why do we get to pick and choose?
Well, let me give you
what
an example.
Is said, especially in a form like that's not a form where it's written on the wall. Do not praise the head coach or any other coach when you walk in this room.
Let me give you an example. Willie, Steven Stamkos scored his 600th goal in Utah, correct?
Correct.
If I had been covering that game on the road and I approached Steven Stamkos at his locker at the end of the game.
Yeah, not on camera necessarily.
But like
in the open locker room.
We're walking. Everybody's walking towards Steven Stamkos because he's going to address reporters. If I were asking the first question, I may say, Steven, congratulations on 600 goals. Here's my question.
600 was in Vegas.
Or Vegas.
Yeah.
600 goals. My question. I wouldn't I think a little acknowledgement is fine.
Sure.
But I wouldn't have gone overboard.
Now, if she would have asked him, because I don't know if it doesn't seem like she asked him a question after that.
We'll have to listen.
Or did she ask him a question before she said all that? The second question was whatever. I don't know exactly, but I don't need to know because in my mind, again, I'm not a journalist. So if y'all listen to this, journalists out there and say, oh, that's because you're not a journalist. You damn right I'm not a journalist. I don't want to do your job. Your job is hard. A lot of time. I get it. I understand it. I respect it. So I'm not a journalist, but I am a human, and humanity is needed right about now in every realm. That's what I am. So if you want to drop a nice nugget on somebody, some words of encouragement, isn't that what we want all the time? Words of encouragement, affirmation. If you want to drop it on the coach, then okay, let him receive it the way he's going to receive it. We can't sit here just because we don't like it. So what?
I do like that she was seeing the coach as a human. Sometimes I think what bugs me is it becomes dehumanized.
Mm-hmm.
And a journalist is only like, or I shouldn't say a journalist. Sports media sometimes they can detach themselves and treat the person as if he or she is not a person like you that goes home to a family that is completely oblivious to the reaction and the pressure and things like that. I do like acknowledgement that there's a human connection between media and coach and vice versa too.
Let's quickly go to Tim on our phone line. Tim, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Derek, I agree 100% with what you said, but the other thing is, you remember the song back in the 80s or 90s, Dirty Laundry?
Yes, Don Henley.
That's what everybody wants to hear. They don't care about the good stuff. They want to hear the dirty laundry. That's why journalists do what they do. That sells papers. That sells ads.
Thank you for the call, Tim.
He said ads.
Ads.
Yes.
Yes. 615-737.
ADS.
Yes.
ADS.
615-737-1025. We've got some reaction. We'll take it. And we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Yes, a great way to start off the week with that segment. That was good. Well, at this time on Friday, we will have our next installment of Take It to the Bank. And, you know, it's pretty bad. I just forgot my picks from Friday, and I was reminded of them today, and wasn't great.
Not good.
Wasn't great. But F&M Bank, they're always great. They've got 20 locations in our listening area. All you've got to do is go to myfmbank.com, find the nearest one to you, and you'll be happy that you did this because they want to build a relationship with you in 2026. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a young up-and-comer trying to pay more attention to he or she's financial situation. Maybe you've got a young family you want to make plans for. Your business means more to them, and they've got tools for you. Banking made easy on purpose. That's the motto of F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. Why should it be any more complicated than it needs to be? myfmbank.com is the website. They're located right in your backyard, starting with West End Avenue right here in Nashville. We take it to the bank every Friday at 5:45 with F&M Bank, member FDIC.
D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Thank you for allowing me to take us to journalism ethics class. By the way, Tim said selling ads with a D. Selling ads. Not selling something else.
Yes.
But he said selling ads. I want people to buy newspapers. Support journalism. Support journalism.
Newspapers, man?
Yes.
Seriously?
What about them?
I mean, isn't newspapers? It's about.
It's hard to find a newspaper.
Yeah, it is. Very hard.
Sad story over the last week or so. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, another
completely
staple.
Completely folding.
Going
Terrible news.
Newspaper. Yeah.
Terrible news.
But
Support journalism.
Right. So I do think in this discussion, we should say journalism is extremely important.
Yes.
Extremely important.
You know what else is extremely important? The Vanderbilt basketball teams.
Undefeated still.
The Commodores.
Men and women.
The Commodore Hour is coming up next, by the way. The men and women are off to, excuse me. They're off. They've both matched the best starts in program history. The men are 16-0. The women are 17-0. So if they remain undefeated following their next games, that will be the best start in school history. Combined.
My math right?
Yes,
my math right?
That is correct. 33-0. By the way, the Vanderbilt men are now number 10 in the country. They have not been in the top 10 since the 2011-12 preseason poll. So it's been that long since the men were ranked in the top 10. They are back in action on the road at Texas on Wednesday.
Not an easy game, by the way. Texas had a good win the other day. They beat Alabama.
Oh, well, there you go.
They beat Alabama, and it was at Alabama.
I did see part of that game, actually.
So I wonder if Nate Oates also considers Texas a really good team.
He may have to now. By the way, there is one fewer undefeated team in men's basketball. Michigan lost on Saturday to Wisconsin. So there
was at Michigan too.
At Michigan.
Good
so
win for Wisconsin.
There
Wow.
are only 5 undefeated teams in the country for the men. Listen to this list: Arizona, Iowa State, Vanderbilt, Nebraska, and Miami, Ohio.
Can we do a preemptive take it to the bank and see which one of these teams lose first?
That's
Which
a good
one
question.
will lose first?
Yeah, who loses first?
I'd have to look at all 5's next opponent.
Don't sleep on the Red Hawks. Don't
Texas
sleep on
the
those
road.
Red Hawks.
It's not easy. Sean Miller coaching Texas now, by the way. It's a different look, right?
Yes.
Sean Miller's been some different places. I felt for you. Speaking of take it to the bank, D-Mace, you went all in on Vanderbilt thrashing LSU, and for 20 minutes they put on a clinic in the first half. They couldn't miss. They scored 52 in the first half.
Raining threes everywhere.
And then it went completely the other way in the second half. They only hit 1 3, and it got a little too. It got down to 6 or 5 at one point. They were up by over 20 at one point, so they kind of sleptwalked through the second half. And you didn't get any points. from that.
I was kind of.
I was hoping
I
you
got
get
mine
the points.
for Tyler Tanner though.
I was kind of bummed, but they did exactly what I feared, because they've done it before, and hopefully it may help them as they get further along playing these tough games when it comes down to the last couple of possessions. But if they don't get it right, they're going to end up losing games, not because they're not the better team, but because they didn't play full 48 minutes of basketball. Like, they have these spells at the end of the half or the end of the games where they're up, and all of a sudden it's just like they lose focus. And whether it's turnovers, it was some bad shots this past weekend.
Yeah, that's
some bad ones.
They
toward
rushed
the
some
end.
things, and it allowed LSU to get back in it. The other thing that Vanderbilt has got to make sure they're on top of, especially when they're still down a main guy in the rotation in Frankie Collins, they've got to manage their fouls. They are fouling a lot. In fact, I'm looking at the Ken Palm
The
here.
LSU and the Alabama game, they got in foul trouble.
And it was a problem last year as well. They're pretty aggressive on the perimeter, and it does lead to turnovers. Their defense overall has a really good rating, number 11 in the ranking. I'm trying to look at where I can find the fouls, but they foul too much. That is something they've got to try to take down just a little bit. You don't want to lose your identity, but if you're constantly having games where going down the stretch, you're a little undersized and you're big, like Okereke and McLaughlin. If they got 4 fouls with 8 minutes to go, or Duke Miles can get himself in foul trouble, that's not what you want, right? You want to be able to play without fearing of fouling out down the stretch.
I do also want to give a shout out to the women, because they are one of 3 remaining undefeated teams in the country: Texas Tech, UConn, and Vanderbilt. So the Vanderbilt basketball programs, the only program in the country with undefeated men's and women's basketball teams.
Just let let them play each other. Then, somebody.
Michaela Blakes could put up some points now.
Oh, damn straight she can.
They're looking good. Vanderbilt's men at Texas Wednesday, Florida, defending champion, coming in on Saturday.
Just crushed Tennessee, by the way.
Florida's starting to, they're going to be really good.
Bland had a good game like the other day.
That will be a huge game on Saturday. And then after that, they go to Arkansas. So trying to stay undefeated is not an easy job. These next 3 will be very, very challenging.
So are you saying that I should not take the Commodores and Derek's prediction?
Look, if I don't think this is going to be the 76 Indiana Hoosiers. They're not that type of team. They're going to lose some games. But I think it's staying consistent, trying to get as good a seed as you possibly can. They've got a high ceiling here, but I'm not confusing them with UNLV of the early 90s.
Iowa State goes to Kansas tomorrow.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one.
Iowa State could fall.
That'll be
there.
a game that they'll have the Lions Den going there in Fog Allen.
Now, Vandy plays Florida first.
They play Texas
They got
tomorrow.
at Texas, and then they got Florida at home, then at Arkansas.
Ooh.
Then at Mississippi
Man,
State,
that's
who's
tough.
not bad either.
Man, that's a tough 3-game run right there.
It's good. I said this the other day. It's good to be a Vanderbilt fan right now, Willie. Things are going well.
I'm riding the wave. I'm riding the wave.
I still think that Memphis game, I think that game spoke a lot about who that team is, because this should have been a foul called every play down. It was aggressive. They were letting them play. It was helter skelter. It's just up and down, but they still found a way to win in sort of this chaotic way. So hopefully, they're going to have some close games, but just like they did against Memphis, they're able to fight through it and win.
That'll do it for us today. We will be live at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow, where the Predators will host the Edmonton Oilers. How many goals will Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl score? We'll find out together tomorrow. Barry Trotz will join us. Trevor Maddich will join us. And you should join us too, starting tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will never forget about you. See you tomorrow, 3 p.m. from Bridgestone tomorrow. Peace.